But we'd lay these out on cork boards, and if an idea wasn't working, well, we'd take out the push pins, rearrange some of the scenes, and voila, perhaps we fixed a great part of the story or added a new one in. So this is really where it all begins. As we continue down further, we talk about our visual development process. You see lots of strokes, a lot of broad strokes, things that help give emotion and shape. Imagine the job of a cleanup artist who has to take this character and keep its essence while removing all of these lines. Very difficult. You can only begin to imagine. We can see that cleanup art right here at the bottom. We used to do a process called inking and painting. And what we do is these artists would trace our animated scenes on a piece of film called celluloid. Very finely would we trace those cleaned up lines. We would then flip that cell over, and within those lines, very carefully paint darkest colors first, up to the lighter colors, and you can actually see how you can't really see the lines because we're painting right over them on the other side. We had some sweat boxes. Those were screening rooms at the Hyperion lot. They were called sweat boxes because it was not air conditioned. You had all that film equipment. It got pretty hot in there. But we actually had some screening rooms in here, many for Walt, in fact. Why do you think we still kept the name sweat box in an air conditioned building?
Pressure.
Pressure from Walt. Yes, if Walt was watching your film in progress, you better bet you were sweating. He was very critical. He was always demanding the best from his artists, and so we still call them sweat boxes. So to connect all those utilities together, the air cooling system and such, we created a tunnel to link the buildings together. Also, we found it very useful because if we were to design and create our animated scenes on paper here, we had to take them across the street to get inked and painted and shot on the camera. Well, if it were raining outside, if it were humid, we wanted to protect those drawings. So later we devised a way to create a tunnel into the other buildings across the street. Please watch your step as we go down these stairs, and you'll have the rare chance to visit. Again. Have any of you heard of them? Josh here, he's here in the camera. He helps us out a lot. The archivist. Our company didn't keep its past. It was something that, okay, we're going to move on to the next picture. And we realized when Walt Disney passed away that we had to preserve our legacy, because soon we wouldn't have the people who worked on these great films. So Dave Smith had the foresight to start an archives, even when other divisions and studios were selling off their assets. So here in the basement was the janitor's office. Dave entered one day and saw, sitting on his shelf, a lovely little snow globe. Can anyone guess what the snow globe might have been from?
Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, you're absolutely right. The snow globe that Mary Poppins, Julie Andrews, uses and begins her Feed the Bird sequence, one of the most pivotal moments of the whole film. Dave said, "Where did you get this treasure?" And the janitor said, "Oh, I found it in the trash."
Well, welcome to the archives. You've probably heard we got started 40 years ago. We just had our anniversary. And it's my anniversary too, because I came here to start the archives. So 40 years in one job. That doesn't happen with many people anymore. But I guess if you're having fun, you might as well keep doing it. We collect and preserve here the history of the whole Disney organization. So what I'm going to do this afternoon is just briefly describe what's around in some of the cases here, and then we'll give you a little time to walk around on your own and get to see things up a little more closely and take your pictures. Plus I brought out a few special things to share with you that I don't ordinarily have out on display. Up here on top you can see some models of some of the Disney characters. These are done for the animators so they can have something dimensional on their desk and be able to turn it and get a feel for the characters from different angles. If they're doing a scene, for example, with Aladdin up here moving away from the camera, it's useful for them to have something dimensional like this so they can turn it and see what does he look like from the back. We started doing this back in the 40s and still do it with our animated features today. So, I did bring out a few special things to share with you today. We'll start with Disneyland, and I'll ask another trivia question. July 17th, 1955, Disneyland opened in Anaheim. If you were living here in Southern California that day, could you go? No. It was an invitational press preview, and this is the ticket. You can see it didn't open until 2:30 in the afternoon. People didn't have a lot of time to spend enjoying Disneyland that day. But you know, there was a very specific reason for opening the park that day, and that was for the television special that they were doing. It was the largest live television special ever done up until that time. And so on the back, there's a little note here, be sure you get there on time because we're doing a television special and you won't be able to get in. But also a map. Nobody knew where Disneyland was. So of course that was part of the ticket. But I think this is even rarer. This is the parking pass. And it's gummed on the back, so you would have licked this and put it on your windshield, and then you'd have to scrape it off. And so I think that not many of these have survived. So the next day, July 18th, could you go to Disneyland that day?
Yes, so.
Yes.
I didn't.
And Roy Disney, Walt's brother, bought ticket number 1. How much to get in? $1. It was, the ticket situation was a lot different in those days. You know, you'd buy your admission ticket like this, but all it did was get you in the gate.
Right.
Every single attraction in the parks had a ticket booth sitting in front of it. And if you wanted to go on Autopia or Peter Pan or Jungle Cruise, you had to stand in line in front of a ticket booth and buy a ticket. Well, people started complaining that it was expensive spending a day at Disneyland. Part of that was psychological because they had to keep reaching into their wallet for money every time they went up to an attraction. So one of our marketing people had the idea of ticket books. And this is the very first version of the Disneyland ticket book. It was $2.50 for a day at Disneyland. And had your admission ticket on the front. And then A, B, and C tickets inside. Now we added the D ticket in 1956, and then the E ticket came along in 1959. And that sort of became part of American culture. Everybody learned that an E ticket ride was sort of the ultimate in thrills.
There were never enough in the book.
There were never enough E tickets. You always used them up first. So I have another trivia question for you. What did we add to the park in 1956 to warrant a new ticket in the ticket book, the D tickets? Nope. Nobody ever gets the answer to this question. I'll tell you right now that I didn't really expect an answer because nobody can ever answer this for me. I did get one of the 3 in the last group, but the first group didn't have a clue. So you got, well, let me tell you what was going on. Disneyland opened in July of '55. It was a huge hit immediately. They had 1 million visitors within 7 weeks. So Walt knew that he had to get in there and add some capacity to the park right away to handle all these visitors. Well, that means adding some more attractions. Well, they wanted to rush them out, so that meant things that they could do fairly quickly. And also, the park had just opened, so they didn't have much cash flow coming in yet. So they had to be fairly inexpensive attractions. So we have Tom Sawyer Island, we have the Skyway, and we have Storybook Land. Those 3 came along in 1956. So, easier question. 1959, we added 3 major attractions to warrant the E-ticket. What were they? Matterhorn. Monorail. Submarines. There you go. Walt wanted a guidebook opening day, and there was no time to get into the park and photograph anything. So the guidebook has all designs of what the park was going to look like. No photographs. Construction was taking place right up until the opening. And Walt also said, I want to sell this for $0.25. And his publishing people said, but Walt, it's going to cost you a lot more than $0.25 to publish this thing. And he said, no, no, no. You've got a good marketing tool here. Because if this is only $0.25, everybody's going to buy one. And they're going to take it home, they're going to put it on their coffee table, their neighbors and their friends and their relatives are going to see it, and then they're going to want to go to Disneyland too. So I think it worked because they sold a heck of a lot of these. As soon as they had a chance to get in and photograph the park, this is the very first photo guidebook. came out in the fall of 1955. And it's rarer than that first one, but the park looks very bare in those days. The trees hadn't even grown up yet. So finally, I brought up today one of the Oscars. So this is the one for White Wilderness, which was one of our true life adventures we made back in the 50s. We had a series of 13 of these nature documentaries, and of those 13 films, 8 of them won the Oscar as Best Documentary. So that's a pretty good record when you can get 8 Oscars out of a series that has only 13 films in it. I will leave this out. If anybody would like to hold an Oscar, you're welcome to do so, and get your picture taken with it. And why don't you take some time and look around at the displays, and I'll be here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.